Okay. Okay. Let's see if this is working. I'm trying to balance the screens again. So let's see if I can get the audio working over on both, and if not, okay. There we go. I think I have it figured out now. Sorry about that. I was trying to mess with my settings to try to make it go a little bit faster. It seems to be struggling with all the windows and everything like that I have open. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over and give it just a minute because it is a little laggy. I hope you guys are doing well. It's hard to believe that we're in week 5 already. That just kind of blows my mind. It's very, very difficult to think that this is how our school year is going to end, but I know that you guys are doing great work with your kids. I know that they're safe and healthy and that they're doing well. That's really great work. I love seeing everything that you guys are sharing. And that's really all we can ask for, is that the kids are safe and healthy and feel safe and secure during this crazy time. It is going to be a moment that they remember for the rest of their lives, and how we react to that, how we respond to that is important. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is, if you can, it recommended I keep the window open, and that's supposed to help. I don't know. We'll see if it doesn't work out. I think last time it kind of did this too, but it ended up working okay in the end. Next week I might just switch over back to just having a video chat. It seems to be a little bit easier to manage and everything like that. But what I wanted to share with you guys first before we get started is today's Teams meeting is mostly, or live Q&A is mostly going to be about what's going on for this week. But the main thing I really want to talk about is our grades. That's been a big question. We're not, we've heard mixed things. We heard, when are they due? Are we going until the end of the school year with grades? What about students that are struggling? What about students that need to be held back? What about students that aren't submitting any work? All those types of questions. The district met to come up with a guideline, and then Medlock Bridge worked to fine-tune that guideline to make sure that it makes sense for us. And then they went and modified that and sent the teachers out an idea of what the handout is going to look like. And then we're trying to fine-tune it a little bit more. So I'm going to kind of give you, I'm not sure if Mr. Vance has sent it out yet or not. He said that it should be going out today. Doesn't go out today, we're going to go over everything on it anyway. And then his form, which is very similar to the one that I'm going to show you today, that just kind of outlines everything. I sent one of these out to everybody today on Seesaw. So if you don't see it on Seesaw, or if you haven't checked or anything like that, please go in and check. That's going to be where I'm going to also post them in the gradebook as well. But this is just a quick visual for you to see everything all at once, both reading and math. This is where we're getting our scores from. The scores ultimately are not going to impact our students and their ability to move on to third grade. We're not holding students, I'm struggling with the word because we are holding them accountable, but we want to make sure that they're not negatively impacted by this time. We know that everybody has different access and different things like that. So any of their assignment grades that are negatively impacting their grades will not be counted towards their final grade. Whatever their quarter 3 grade was is what we're basing this off of. Students are allowed to go through and see all of their scores and are allowed as many opportunities as they want to take it over again. This is a new platform for us to navigate, and iReady was decided by the second grade team to be how we were going to assess the skills that we're currently working on. Just because it's an unbiased, it gives straightforward, here's the lesson, here's the answer, or here's the quiz, and you go through. What I am going to recommend you really do is go through those and sit with your child while you're doing that. I am looking through iReady, and they're trying to provide more information for us, but what I can see from the teacher is the actual lesson. I can see what's covered in, and I can make sure it's appropriate, make sure that there's nothing too challenging in there. I look for things that tend to be from quarter 1, quarter 2, but are aligned with what we're doing. I'm never going to assign them something that's going to, take a 45-minute lesson. We look for those 20-minute ones and the ones that have all the information right there that can be answered how I think is fair. So if your child is struggling, I can see the score and I can see the minute they took, and that's about it. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell me which questions they missed. So without seeing them do it, it's hard for me to be able to provide you the feedback of what they need to work on. Unfortunately, I just don't have access to that. So I suggest sitting down with your child. You can assist them, you cannot assist them. We know that going back next year, next school year, it's going to be different. It's going to be an adjustment. It's going to be adapting our skills and our standards and our expectations. And it's going to be where we're going to approach to know that the kids are going to be at different levels than where we would expect them to be at a normal rising second grader or a normal third grader. So with that all being said, these scores here, if you want to retake it just so that you can see where their struggles are, because you are going to be you're assessing them at home as much as I can from afar. So when they're sharing things on Seesaw, I can catch mistakes or I can catch things that I feel need to be discussed, and I try to leave those in comments for them. But with this particular score, see the specifics of what they missed. I can see, okay, that I would need to practice some more how characters act with this particular student. That lets the parents know, and it lets me know what type of lessons. I can kind of see, okay, a lot of people really struggled with this recognizing drawing shapes. So maybe I'll hit up some more of that towards the last couple weeks when we have some more time, and I'll make a review that lesson if I have overall a lot of students missing that sort of skill. I did put an X for anything that was missing. Some of you guys were working on them today. It was down on Friday, so if it was missing and then you completed it, just that's great. I don't get a notification, however, if you have retaken the assignment or anything like that. I just have to go into the platform and look at each individual student and then scroll through all their find the one. So if your child does an assignment over again, make sure that they are able to, in the comments, I left a quick little message that said, please let me know when you're finished. That way I can go and update the scores. And what I'll do is I'll actually add a text box on top of the scores so you can see it on yours in their account too. Let's see, go ahead and close that. So this is the document that Mr. Vance and the administration team was working on this to kind of make sure that they were evaluating any misunderstandings or things like that to try to make sure it was as clear as possible. So his might be slightly different than this, but this is the one that was sent out to the teachers. And I wanted to kind of go over it, just what we understand from it. So what we really want to focus on is that students should be held harmless regarding their grades. And we recognize that this is a traumatic event. We recognize that this is uncertain times and that there are different levels of access for all of our students. And so we don't want grades to be adversely impacted due to this remote learning. Even if every single student was able to access every single thing that I'm sending to them, it's still much different than if we were in the classroom and they had that daily access all day long. To get that instant feedback, that those questioning skills, all of that verbal communication and assessment that we do daily, we know that that's changed on remote learning. Work submitted will only count if it positively impacts a student's overall grade, and grades cannot drop lower than the quarter 3 grade. All students should have the opportunity to redo and make up work. So with those iReady assignments, one of the biggest questions I'm facing is a lot of parents saying, okay, they got a 75, they passed technically. I know that we need to work on some of those skills again. Do they need to take it over again? The answer is no, they don't have to. It's up to you. I left it open. I posted it on the student's account. I had one student who she had an 88, and her mom commented and said, wow, this is awesome, because she had all these really good grades and then the 188. And she said, I'd like to retake that assignment. I know that I can do better on it. So as a student, it gave her that opportunity to say, wait, I want to try that again. Or somebody maybe that has failed one multiple times and is super frustrated and isn't sure what they're missing and what they're getting wrong, that's a good opportunity for you as a parent to sit with them and say, okay, let's look at what you're missing. Let's look at it together, because we don't want it to be so challenging and so frustrating that they just shut down and they lose interest in the topic. So you want to make sure that just have that as a conversation. We always talk about, Albert Einstein has a quote that says something about if you haven't learned something new today, or if you haven't made a mistake, you haven't learned anything new today. And so that's something that we always talk about, is like mistakes are an opportunity for learning, and let's figure out what it is that we need to learn in a different way. Maybe how we taught it or how Miss Barnes taught it wasn't working, and that's something that I do on a daily basis with them. Is I have those those strategies and those different techniques and things like that, but you guys don't have that background knowledge, and so it's difficult for me to be able to help because I'm not sitting right there with them. So it's this whole big just new thing that we're all trying to figure out, and I'm here to support you in the best way that I can. So as if you're sitting down next to them and you're saying, okay, I struggled with action because we're doing, let's say, for example, said how many pieces of the pizza were left, and they said 2 out of 7, or what was the example? It was 1 out of, let's say they said 1 out of 7, when really it would be 1 out of 8, but they're counting the remaining pieces as the denominator. I have some techniques and tips and strategies that can help you reteach that to them, but I don't know that specifically if they're struggling with that unless you're sharing that with me in some way. So whether it's Seesaw, email, I'll send out my phone number if you guys want, anything just to be able to get that instant feedback, instant access as much as I'm able to. So let's see. The main reason for these percentage grades that we've got right now is to keep you guys, parents, informed. You're able to see not just, oh, they got a satisfactory. Satisfactory can mean such a range of understanding of the materials. I also just realized this whole time I've been talking and my screen has not been shared. Let's see. I'm sorry about that. I've been highlighting things on this and haven't had my screen shared this whole time. So sorry about that. Hopefully now you'll be able to see it. But what the purpose is of those percentage grades is for you guys to see approximately, it gives you a more visual understanding of how much content your student is processing from the week. So it could just be that maybe they were rushing, and maybe then you just have that conversation with them about the skill. Maybe it's something that they really are struggling on and you need some more resources for it, you reach out to me. I can help you. We can set up a one-on-one if needed on Teams, things like that. So the percentage score is not going to be represented for fourth quarter. We're actually being told to uncheck them from the grade book so it doesn't combine as an average. It's just to give you that immediate score result. So they will have one assignment grade for reading and ELA combined. So reading, grammar, all of that. That's where that iReady reading lesson is coming from. And then one assignment grade for math. That's that iReady math lesson as well. We are entering scores. I did enter them. I didn't post them live yet because there were a few students that I know were working on them this afternoon. So those will be posted. If they are missing, it's going to go in as an I, and then that way you can see that in the grade book as well. So all of these are going to be sent to the district. The district is printing out to see where we're at in terms of how many students percentage-wise, who we have access to, who's completing the assignments, who's not completing the assignments, all of that. With all of that being said, we're going to be using this grading scale to kind of get our S, N's, U's, and I's. I's are for incomplete. It's not going to be a 0. Anything that's normally would be a failing grade, it's going to be a U. And then we have our needs improvement, which is at 70, 79, and then 80 and above is going to be that satisfactory. Any student that has not had an SST meeting or any sort of remedial work this year, whether they went to EIP or they went to TIER program or something like that, if those words are not familiar to you, then that means your student was not a part of them. And if they were not a part of them, they're not on the possibility of being worried about moving them to third grade. That means they have been doing what they need to do this whole year, and we know that they're going to be able to handle it next year. We know that the third grade teachers are going to take them knowing that they've missed a quarter of potential work. So everything's going to be adapted. Everything's going to be adjusted as needed. But we've adopted a no zero policy. And so we're making sure that if the student is completing greater than 70% of the work, they're going to get that passing score. If their grade is affected negatively, we're going to have a discussion about that, and we're going to find ways to adjust it and make sure that it is not impacting them negatively. So I had a parent send an email, and they said, is there any reason I should be concerned about a grade of an A- versus, so that's that student who had 88%, she wanted to get an A on it. There is no reason for you to be worried as a parent. It just gives you that extra information of what you want to cover with them if you want them to retake those assessments over again. I'm happy to reset them as many times as you want, but I don't want to put that pressure on you that you have to or anything like that. The assessment and the feedback is important, but then I'm also providing that feedback via Seesaw as well. So finding as many ways as you can to share your students' learning with me will be able to give you that feedback you need as well, especially listening in on those Microsoft Teams meetings, looking at their quizzes, if they get problems wrong on the quizzes. I'm trying to give you different ways to just kind of monitor how they're doing. So with the continuous learning system, so if your student is in advanced or accelerated versus on level, they'll continue to be promoted to that next section. So for example, if your student started at a 3.1 year, they moved into 3.2 in January, and they'll begin with that 4.1 math curriculum for next year. Same goes with the reading. If they're in advanced or accelerated reading, they'll continue with that advanced or accelerated placement next year as well. Unless there's any sort of discussion from the parents or any concerns from the teacher, which would have been communicated to you otherwise. Again, everybody is doing great, doing fine. I don't have any concerns at this time. So basically, all of that to be said, that the percentage scores are provided more to give you insight into how they're doing. It's also giving me insight into, oh, okay, I had a number of students miss this particular skill. That'll be something that, as time allows, at the last couple weeks of school, we can spend a little bit more time going over that, doing some extra activities on fractions maybe, or some extra looking at the partitioning shapes equally, those types of things. It gives me a little bit of insight, gives you. But unless you're sitting there watching with them, the pinpoint examples of what skill, because the generalized topic could be finding main idea, but what specifically are they struggling with? Are they just not paying attention to the text? Were they not selecting the best answer? All of those types of things we hear from those discussions, and sadly, those discussions are not happening with me. So try to share with me, have them share with me, have them post a video, have them post a photo of their work, ask them, if they have a question, ask it on Seesaw. I'm happy to share a video or a resource or something to help you with that part of it as well. Let's see here, checking my questions. So there was I just got an alert from our superintendent. He said Governor Kemp just finished a press conference announcing plans to begin reopening businesses across the state. This is going to generate some questions about work, but he is fully expect that we're going to continue with the remote learning through the balance of the school year. But all of that will be just communicated to you. I just got that flashed across my screen, so I wanted to make sure to share that as I saw that. But it's because we've already determined that we're continuing to the end of the school year with this remote learning. I highly suspect that would continue as well. All right, let's see. Sorry, I am very sidetracked today. Lou ate all of our coffee filters yesterday, so we have not had any coffee at our house today, and it is affecting me. But if Mr. Grace has not sent out a form that looks similar to this, be on the lookout for it. It should be coming to you soon. I hope I didn't confuse you more with the grading questions. The platform of iReady is designed to give the students a lesson prior to the actual assessment, and that lesson is going to give them practice problems that are going to be designated to be similar to what is going to be in the actual quiz. So if they're rushing through the lesson, then that might be a reason why they're struggling with the quiz. So just encouraging them to take their time on it and, have it as a learning opportunity, not a stressful moment, because at the end of this, remember that the percentage is not going to ultimately impact them negatively. So normally we want to make sure that they're passing and that they're succeeding, and in these times, 75 is perfectly okay. It's showing that they're comprehending the skill. Maybe there's some minor misconceptions, or that there's a few maybe rushed questions or things like that. And those are all skills that we'll adapt and look at further next year. With Seesaw, because I didn't share this earlier, or I didn't have my screen shared, this is what I have on, I posted on everybody's account. So with your scores, and if there's any that you are missing, if there are any that you want to redo, you would just leave it in the comments. You would just say, describe how characters act. I'd like to retake that. And then just let me know when you finish retaking it, so that way I can update the score, and I'll update it right here on this file so that you have it. Before I jump into anything further for this week, does anybody have any questions at the moment? It's delayed, so there's going to be like a gap of not talking. But if you have any questions, just remember to keep them in the posts. If you don't have any questions at the moment, I'll go ahead and kind of go over a couple of things to be aware of for this week's particular lessons. I'll keep an eye on the comments and see if there's any questions that come up. Otherwise, I'm just kind of rambling, so sorry about that. Trying to think of any sort of that have come up, any sort of questions that you may have or need some clarification on. So I'll go ahead and start talking about stuff for this week, unless I start seeing some questions pop up. If you want to stay on and hang out and see what we're doing this week, great. If you are busy and you've got dinner to prepare and get the kids situated, I understand that as well. So if you need to leave, I hope this was helpful. If not, I will go ahead and continue starting with just kind of going over just real quick anything that I think you guys might need to, anything different this week. Most of it, we tried to keep things pretty familiar for the students. So this is just something that the our admin decided. One second, I see a question popping up. Other than logging in through their Launchpad account, is there a way that we can see their grades other than you needing to update us? So I'm going to be putting their grades into the into their Infinite Campus, so they'll be posted there. Students can also see their scores. Again, it's not going to tell you what they missed, but they can see their scores when they log in. If you tell them to go to My Progress, then there's a which they should be familiar with, because we were on track of checking My Progress all the time to see how many lessons they had completed and that sort of thing. And then underneath, it'll have kind of like a graph, and I can share a screenshot of this later, but it'll have, under My Progress, it'll say, it's got like a little bar graph showing how many lessons they've completed. It's got how many they've accomplished versus, passed successfully, those types of things. And the, I lost my train. Right underneath that, there is a link that says, I believe it says My Lessons or something of that sort, and they can click on that link and it'll show all of their lessons and all of the scores. It'll also show you how many attempts and things like that that they've done. I can see that on my side as well, but that's a way that so let's say they finish it and they move on, and they say, oh yeah, I did that the other day, and you ask, how did you do? And they say, I don't remember, or I think, those types of questions. You can go back and look at those specific lesson skills. And I'm going to try to highlight from now on. I was thinking about this on Sunday night, adding a box somewhere on here at the bottom that would just say what the iReady lesson for the week is going to be, so that way you know which one to look out for, the name of it, and that sort of thing. So I hope that answered your question, Randy. Is the math assignment from iReady Math? Yes, so all of just to keep it consistent across the grade level, we decided to do all lessons iReady, both reading and math. So we'll have that, it's the same lesson no matter which class they're in, based off of the skills that we're doing for the week. So with this is just to reiterate the expectations for the week. We do want our students reading daily, and we try to integrate that into the ELA Choice Board. However, we want our students independently in second grade, ideally, to be able to read 30 to 45 minutes independently. We realize that that's not always going to be the case, but if they get that good book, they're really interested, they're really excited about it, different series and things like that. You get engrossed in that reading. So hopefully with this nonfiction unit, that's where I usually see a lot of excitement coming from the students on EPIC and things like that. They can share their books, and they're, passionate about saying, did you know, and asking all those facts. Ms. Martins, did you know that, lizards are brightly colored because they want to warn off their predators? And I've heard those facts come up in our short discussions. So I love nonfiction reading with second graders. They're just so excited about it all. So trying to find books on using EPIC. I heard there's a whole series, the Who Would Win series, that they love, where it's like who would win a python or an alligator. So that worked. I saw a couple kids reading that one last week. And then you're choosing 4 of the, so this has changed. We originally stated that they should do 5 activities, 5 in ELA and then 5 in math. I want to give you guys time to do that designated time to do the iReady reading lesson and iReady math lesson. So so I went ahead and I did this last week, but just to reiterate it on this for all of second grade, you only have to do 4. A lot of times I'll double up on some just to kind of discuss all of them in my videos, but know that you only have to do 1. So for example, A, I covered both activity A and D, and I saw a lot of students complete both A and D. They don't have to do both, but usually A and D are pretty, I designed them so that they're a little bit shorter and a little bit easier for the students to practice in a concise way. And then this one I highlighted in green because although originally we were going to collect grades from the choice board work, now we're using it more as a tool to provide feedback for our students. So these are all activities that we would want to do with our students in class and try to adapt them so that anybody can do them at home, not having materials, that sort of thing. But if you're not submitting the work from the choice boards, whether it's just a photograph of it or whether they just take 2 seconds and say, leave a comment saying, I did this activity today and I learned this. They can use that little notes feature on Seesaw. If it's you sending me an email or you sending me a text message or something like that, however is going to be the easiest way for you to submit the work is going to be a way for me to be able to provide it. I've had some people who wait until the end of the week to submit their work, and at that point, it can kind of get lost in the shuffle, and there's so much coming through that I might be missing some components of it. So trying to make sure that you've got, if you're submitting it daily, that's going to be the best way for your child to get immediate feedback, especially if they're struggling. So with the iReady lessons, it's great for you to sit there and see what they're doing with their work that they're submitting to Seesaw. If you see them making mistakes that they're not catching and you want me to provide some feedback on that, that's what I can do. But you've got to share it on Seesaw however you want to do it. It can be a video, it can be, I saw Alex has a giant whiteboard and he does everything on his whiteboard and takes a picture of that. Olivia sends me videos of her just talking about it all the time, or her practicing her reading with it right in front of her. I've got, the activities I chose. So this activity is actually in the Seesaw Activities tab so that they can actually practice this digitally instead of having to print it out. If you print it out, just take a picture of you holding it or something like that. The more you can provide on Seesaw or email or to me in whatever way you need to, whether it's if you need an individual Teams meeting or something like that, this is all too much for you, let me know and let's work on it, because that's how I can provide that feedback and give your kids not just the reinforcements needed, but also that, you're doing an awesome job, you're working really hard, and I'm super proud of you. So that's kind of just what I wanted to go over here with the expectations for your activities. We're doing they're very familiar with this fluency. This is what we did in our phonics packet. I'm sure you guys recognize it. Vocabulary thing, they're very familiar with that. I did want to point out this down. I saved it on one of the files. I'm not sure which one, but make sure we're talking about chickens, so we're talking about down as in the feathers. So thinking about that instead of directional. Reading this week, these are our poems, so we're talking about alliteration and syncane. We normally do a poetry cafe with our second graders, and I'm working on how to do that digitally with them since we didn't get to do the Living Museum. I'm still playing with ideas about that as well, but finding some way to have a virtual poetry cafe is going to be something that's big on my list of things to do. So once they complete these, they should have them collected, and then it'll be a collection of poems that they can share with us. For reading, it is just using a nonfiction text and informational book of your choice. I will be going over that in our lesson on Wednesday, where I will have a book that they can use for these. If they want to choose a different book, maybe they're not so interested in chickens or not so interested in birds, then that's fine. They can just use a nonfiction book of their choosing to kind of complete this. Think about a lot of questions that we ask them thinking beyond the text. So what did you learn? That's a pretty standard question that we hear about, but thinking beyond the text, like how do the pictures help me understand the text? So looking at the diagrams, looking at the maps, looking at those key features of nonfiction text, and how does that help me understand it better as a reader? If I just had a sheet full of words versus if I have a picture I can look at. That's thinking beyond the text instead of just text-dependent questions. Then we also have this add it one, which is what information do you wish was in the book? What questions do you still have? So a lot of times I'll read a book or an article or something and I'll send it to them and I'm like, but that didn't, it didn't have that component that I wanted to talk about. It didn't talk anything about when they were born, or it didn't talk anything about their greatest accomplishment, or it didn't talk about the types of food that they have in their diet, those types of things. So we're thinking about our book as, okay, we just read this book, we enjoy it, we really liked it, but wait a minute, I'm still wondering some things. So that's what it's asking them to do, is to think about what else did this book not give me, or this article not give me. And then they research it and go through that. For math, we're continuing with arrays, which they did well with. Arrays are introduction to multiplication for that 2.1 level math. I saw a lot of good practice with the subtraction. We kind of get away from that, and they all think, oh, multiplication is so much more difficult. But really, we know that the regrouping and subtraction and addition is quite difficult. So make sure that they're practicing that so that they're ready for third grade beyond just their multiplication facts. We'll be working with repeated addition, which will help us. A lot of them have already even picked up on it. I've mentioned it briefly, that repeated addition is our basis for multiplication. So 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, or they're like, well, I could just do 3 times 4. And that's the same thing, or 4 times 3, knowing the commutative property. So this is just going to kind of be our basis for that. If you want to do one of these activities, but you want to adapt it, please feel free to. So if you don't want to do 30 pieces and you want to do, you can only find 10, do 10, or instead of small snack, maybe it's that you have buttons, or maybe it's that you want to do it with decorating a cake or something like that you are more than welcome to do it. You can do it with chalk outside. You can do it filming a movie, making a script that goes along with it, a story, a scenario, and there's stop motion is a really fun thing that we were going to do this year, where you just take little screenshots of it. There's so much that I just wish that we were able to do, that I don't want to overwhelm you by giving you the ideas, but I want to challenge you to think about them creatively in a different way. A lot of times it's asking your kids, how would you want to do this? You've got 30 snacks and you want to teach it to a kindergartner. How are you going to teach it? Are you going to teach it to them in a traditional way? Are you going to make it, a poster? Are you going to make, there's all those ways to do it. You don't have to follow this word for word, if that's helpful at all. For example, I had Sarah's family a couple weeks ago. They took what we were using and it was fractions, and they were adapting it, and scale models, and they did it with sharks and had a whole themed week on sharks, and it was really amazing. The girls were really engaged. So if there's something so we're doing chickens this week. If you want to do a different one, you want to do different vocabulary for a different animal or something like that, please feel free. Explore your passions with your kids, and know that the exact specifics are not always going to be the most critical at this time, right? We want them to enjoy it, what they're doing, and having fun with it as well. And then for, I'm going to skip over 2.2. That's going to be Miss Hall and Miss Davis are teaching that subject. If you have any questions for them, they're pretty easily accessible. In my 3.1 math group, the big thing we're going to be talking about is this category here, whole numbers as fractions. And we're going to be just finalizing, reviewing fractions and equivalent fractions and things like that. This is going to be it's from Math Aids, and I did link it to the 3.1. It is the 3-minute drill in the 2.1 math group, and you want to do this. They do have addition ones, and they also have this multiplication one. They're definitely welcome to practice. The goal is to get 60 facts in 3 minutes to be considered fluent in your facts. I always stress to them, just go through. If you get stuck on one, circle it, come back to it. And we were doing this. We did this, both the blue group and the green group, which is my 2.1 group, did addition. And they were pretty quick. And then there were a few that were like, that pressure. But science actually shows that when they have, when they practice under pressure, that then they're much more fluent in it at a later date when that pressure isn't there. So again, with the blue group, I'm going to be going over this whole numbers as fractions and fractions greater than 1 and what that looks like in our lesson. That's what I'm going to focus on with them tomorrow. I did have a question about the difference between this red checklist and the blue checklist. I think I didn't. Yes, so I actually had to, last week, the skills lined up for both of my math groups, but here I did B and E for my 2.1 level, and this group is only doing activity B. So the 3.1 is the blue group in class. So this is their blue checklist, and the red one is just, I change the color each week so you don't get confused between week to week. And then same with this, so this one corresponds with it. So the red one is for reading and 2.1. Blue group, I forgot to change this to say 3.1, but they're working with the fractions and things like that. So that's why there's two different, and I'm sorry for not communicating that before. I think that's pretty much it. The additional resources, I tried to find a bunch of links on chickens for them to get some background knowledge on it. The last week's resources, if you don't have that file, it's still saved under the Microsoft Teams tab, which I will show you. Week 4, I'm going to add week 3 and week 2 as well. But the biggest one is these Nearpod codes. Go to Nearpod, check it out. They're really, really great. They walk them through the whole lesson, and it gives you some great feedback on that. So if you go to your Microsoft Teams, anybody who's still having trouble with that, the biggest thing that we found is using the downloading the app and making sure that you have the app downloaded can help eliminate some of the issues that we're having. Looks like I'm having an error on my video. Okay, there we go. We're back. So this is the main chat room for Microsoft Teams. If you go to this Files tab, there was one student who was accessing it through her OneDrive. Students have a OneDrive account as well as an email account. Office 365, it covers all of it. So you want to make sure that you're not accidentally in the OneDrive and that you're in your class to find the files. But then if you just go on the Files tab, you'll be able to see, give it just a second, it takes a minute. There we go. So it's got week 4 and then week 5 resources, and then those class codes that I was kind of talking about last week, where anything that you're trying to log into, this will give you those kind of quick resources. If there's something you're missing, let me know and I will add it. I'm going to be, when I post these, I'm going to put the choice boards. We have to have those ready by Thursday to get approval from administration, and then they let us know. They'll send it back to us on Friday if there's anything they want us to change. So on Friday, I can upload the choice boards. All of the additional resources and the quizzes and the week at a glance and the checklist and those sort of things are usually worked on throughout the weekend. So that's why I usually send those late Sunday night. But I just wanted to let you know that so coming up this Friday, week 6, will be posted in here, the choice board. So if you want to get a head start for the weekend, you can check that. That's going to be there. I don't think I have anything else. I'm playing around with my schedule a little bit. The one that I sent in the beginning of this whole thing was working great until I started doing the live classes, and then those tend to go a little bit longer. So I'm working on modifying that a little bit, just for those of you that want to follow it. You don't have to. It's just how I will try to kind of align everything for the day. If there is anything else, you guys have questions, please let me know in the comments. And if not, I'll just hang on here for a little while longer. That's it. So I hope you guys are staying safe and healthy and practicing those social distancing measures, and just remind yourself that at the end of the day, as long as your kids are safe, as long as they're healthy and they're loved and they feel that from you, it's going to be okay. We're going to make sure it's okay next year. So I'll keep this open for a while. Keep the chat open. I'm going to try to play around right now to see if I can access see if I can exit. The last thing that I think that I didn't go through. So you go to iReady, and I'm logged in as a student right now. So I can go to reading. See, now she's got a lesson here. So this is where you would make sure that they would have that. And then down here, this little arrow is what says my progress.
My progress.
And then, so here's all their data for the week, and then you go to completed work, and that's where you can see those scores that they got. And if she had done this one multiple times, it would have it on there multiple times as well.
Log out.
So I will have to remember that that's what it says. It said completed work. So if you go to the completed work tab, that's where you can see their scores of those. It's going to show them. So if I switch to her math, because she'll have a lot more math lessons, it's going to show. I'm wondering. Yeah, so we'll make sure to communicate which lessons are the ones that we're taking for a grade, because otherwise it's not gonna say teacher assigned. So here's one that you can see that would be a skill that they would let them do again. It just gives you kind of the topics that you want. You can even sort by category, that sort of thing. So there's a couple little things there for you. Randy, where can we make an appointment if you're referencing like just for some one-on-one help or something like that? I don't have anything set up right now. I'm thinking about opening, I've heard mixed things about open office hours because kids will just start joining, that sort of thing. But if you just want to email me what you're talking about, then we can set something up personally, and then we'll figure out sorry, I got distracted by something. We'll figure out what you're looking for, and I'll find some time in the schedule to make that work. That goes for anybody else as well. If there's something that you notice, or you have an idea, I want to do the Sign Up Genius, but we had some kind of mixed things with that as well, some confusion and things like that. So once I get my schedule finalized, which I plan to do, I have it outlined, and I'm going to test it out tomorrow to see how it goes. And then when I have that schedule posted, I'll do that and share that with you guys as well. All right. Well, if there are no more questions, like I said, I'll hang on for just a little bit longer in case you guys have any questions. If you don't, I will talk to you soon. So thanks, guys.